we're going to dive into something not that relaxing, I believe, unfortunately, at times of not really. Um, but I have quite a lot of questions for you, apart from just, sharing from what I've gathered for you today. And during this presentation, I ask you to think, maybe about your own beliefs about AI, your fears. Also, if you're working on AI, please be active, share perhaps your comments or questions, and then times will pass them to me because we are all here to learn and to shape the future. And that's what's beautiful about it, that we are living in the moment when we can influence actually what's going on, especially in the world of AI. Um, if you don't know me, I'm Extreme Mature. I'm linguist, founder from Lingua Plus. I'm an educator. I've been in education for 15, 16 years, a lot of time, half of my life. And I've been getting into AI, well, again, because it influences directly my field of work, education or future work. And there are a lot of people have been asking me, oh, will AI like like literally like oust a lot of people from their works, right? Or like from their jobs, or whether AI is going to completely, reduce working hours or substitute a lot of workers, teachers. And I would say that AI will be a great tool, as like assistance tool. However, what's important right now at this very moment, while we are actually developing AI, is to see how we're developing it and why it's so important to talk about other professions, not only the developers or those who are coding, who are training AI, but all other professions who could help to shape the AI that we will actually enjoy working with in the future. So, first of all, we need to know that AI aims at simulating human intelligence, right? And what I've noted that a lot of AI developers right now are focusing on, as you know, language, trying to figure out how a human can interact with a machine and how language can be expressed, used by the machine in the best possible way. Because yeah, people say probably acquisition of language is one of the greatest intellectual achievements, if not the greatest. And indeed, here when we talk about natural language processing, we're talking about one of the major fields of AI. Yeah, and it indeed overlaps with computational linguistics. Computational linguistics is also a continuously growing field of linguistics. And here, when we think about computational linguistics and problems, there's one of the fundamental problems is about modeling this basic linguistic processes, meaning comprehension, production, learning of language. And when we think about it, it includes different problems about the perception, communication, knowledge, planning, reasoning, learning. Probably you've heard about it if you've been following indeed AI scene, especially all the updates on ChatGPT, Gemini, and other apps. You probably notice, like you've noticed that still there's some struggles here how chatbot would communicate with you, whether he would understand you or she, no, or it understand you, right? And how it produce certain, you know, ideas, reasons, suggestions. And in fact, when we talk with you about computational linguistics, the tradition, it refers to written language. With we have as well speech technology. And when we talk about speech technology, it's all about the analysis and the synthesis of spoken language. Um, so when we talk then about language technology that emerged, it's like common denominator, both modes of language. And what's interesting here that we have this division, speech technology and computational linguistics, and they are like based on different scientific traditions and methods. We've got statistical method, yeah, or actually various methods in speech technology, and then symbolic processes in communication linguistics. However, as you know, the statistical methods eventually found applicable to all those new data-driven machine translations. And in fact, right now, we think about this. Um, well, ChatGPT and other systems use their statistical methods, in fact. And I think that one of the basic problems of machine translation um, is in lexical ambiguity, variation, grammatical differences, morphology, word order. Because if we think about languages, there are so many. There are over 7,000 languages on this planet. And even though we're communicating here in English, we'll talk about it a little bit more. There are so many various languages, different word orders, different grammars. Um, well, this influences the way how we understand the language and how we also train the machine in processing those different parts or and grammar parts, sigmas, and then either translating, yeah, or speaking in another language that is not related to English, for instance. Maybe that's very different from English. And when we talk with you about kind of rule-based paradigm, there are problems approached by linguistic analysis, sorting out different uses. Well, for instance, translation options, yeah, or like words, yeah, translation words, where linguistic analysis is also like the backbone in creating an appropriate word order. So when we talk with you about the data-driven statistical approach, it relies on the reuse of large amounts of previously translated text and parallel data. So imagine if we have English with a lot of data, and then there's Spanish, so we can work it out. But there are some endangered languages where we just don't have enough data, and that's a big problem. Or languages that are so unlike English, again, where we may have a lot of problems in just processing the data and trying to create coherent, quite accurate, let's say, translation. But it's not only about translation here, because again, we are talking with you about already communication in different languages, right? As we can see, chatbots communicate in different languages, and we compare and we see which language communication is more accurate, which is not, and how actually it works. And here, I must tell you that despite that statistical approach, um, how all these chatbots have been working, we actually living in an age of symbols, and we need to remember about this because it's crucial. If you don't know, Lotman, scientist, Euro Lotman, developed semiotics, and given that we are living in all these cultures and languages, we are living actually in symbolic systems. And Lotman explored this notion. He explored different notions of symbolic systems. He highlighted 7 different symbolic systems. And then he talked about text, that language as complex of signs. And in fact, their meaning here, or like, let's say like a shared meaning or for text as well, like language, is shaped by cultural codes and conventions. And that's what's crucial here, because what I've been seeing indeed that all these developers, I'm not saying you here with me, so probably you are one applying statistical analysis. And I also have talked to developers who believe that Chomsky and universal grammar are perfect for development of AI and large models, yeah, language models. However, the clue is in semiotics and symbolic processing. What it means, you need, if you're a developer and you're developing AI, you need somebody who understands semiotics. Somebody, so it could be a linguist with strong background in semiotics, because then you will be able to navigate that, well, ambiguity that we were talking about based on the sociocultural context. And then, of course, cultural codes, meaning that you need in your team as well somebody who understand a lot about culture. I'm not talking about art history museum. I am more concentrating here on rituals, traditions, symbols that are coming out of the culture for hundreds of thousands years of tradition. And that leads us to the second part of this talk, because when we talk about culture, we start jumping into technoculture. This is not what you might think first. Technoculture is culture, it was the tag or whatever it is. In fact, technoculture is about combination of the technology ecosystem, right, and the culture in which it's embedded. It's important here. We take with your nation a culture that develops AI. What happens? In fact, what happens, it's engagement. Yeah, so engagement of this um, culture or cultural context, its influence, and the technology. So how then sociocultural context, socioeconomic context influences directly technology that it's being developed in this culture. Just think about it. um, let's say that we think with you about like any culture, Bulgaria, US, China. So how can this AI technology be influenced by cultural context? Well, I would say there's, despite a lot of people say that we are the same in a way, um, that okay, we all breathe the same air, we all have 6 or 8 emotions depending on the theory about emotions. We are actually different in the way how we express those emotions or how we use this air, let's say. What it means that cultural values differ from culture to culture. Like we have the backbone, of course, where we're similar. And I've had a wonderful conversation, actually, like number of. So I had a particularly a wonderful conversation with a Tibetan monk, Matveeva, and you can find the conversation as well. Me talking about it, where we agree that we are similar at the same time we're different. And one as well, one of the issues here about the difference of cultural values, it's also about the hierarchy. We may have very similar, maybe same cultural values, but then the hierarchy, the priority of those values may be different. And it will influence our decision making. And consequently, it will influence the decision making of AI. A good example, say self-driving cars, Tesla, um, safety measures. There is an accident, and AI must choose whom to save first. And depending on culture and the hierarchy of values, AI will make a decision to save either a child or an elderly, just an adult, a woman, a man. It depends. And it's very difficult for us to agree on one common denominator because they're different, again, they're different values, they're different priorities, and we need to respect that as well. And then when we come to this point understanding that we may be similar but we are different, comes the next question: what's going to happen in the next years, like in the next, let's say, 10, 20 years? Are we going to end up in pluralism or in monopoly? What I mean by it, when we talk about technocultural pluralism, we have here two premises. One, technology is influenced by local culture, localization. And two, that countries, still like going to have this amazing variation of cultures and values. Especially right now, we can see that there is emergence of movement for multilingualism, multiculturalism, and I believe indeed it may stay there. But then this variety will lead to cultural frictions, even wars. What are we going to do about it? Just imagine that there are different AI systems clashing on the basis of different values or different hierarchies of values. All right, then there is another scenario, or the other scenario, and it's technocultural monopoly. Let's say, as an example, that there are few languages. We can even like say that English is dominating, but again, I'm pro multiculturalism, multilingualism, so I would say that a few languages dominating the world. Yeah, there's English, there's Spanish, Chinese, Tamil. I mean, we can say like top 10 out of 7,000. And let's just imagine there's one or a few AI systems that may eventually dominate our world. So there is an AI race, and it is already right now like occurring. We're living in it. So one or a few systems eventually are going to win, and they will start imposing values of the culture that created this AI system. Just think about it. What does it mean? It's complicated. Again, it is complicated. And while we are processing this information and we're trying to think which scenario would be better and how we could actually tackle it, we need to think with you about who is behind the AI training. When I say who's behind AI training, I imply, of course, developers, AI trainers, all these companies. And I think that we need to ensure that those who train AI models have in their team experts, well, languages, cultures, values, like linguists, psychologists, um, sociologists, anthropologists, and so that a locally created AI can be a strong representative, right, or preserver of their cultural values. And then if AI trainers, that's important, if AI trainers being engineers, brilliant mathematicians, but don't have any emotional or cultural intelligence, well, we are doomed, because then we will end up being in this emotionless, say, world here with AI assistants, and where AI assistant will make decisions based on statistics and perhaps even against our values. So it's not about making AI like, it's more about helping AI to understand our values and act accordingly if we are planning to use AI as our assistant and also decision maker in certain situations. Help AI to understand our values, our like hierarchy of values, priorities, and act according to our perception of the world, basically. And indeed, here with all those questions, I'm curious about your experience, about your opinion, because indeed it's an acute issue right now. And before I finish, I just want to say that if you are there, if you are developing AI, if you are thinking about certain chatbot, indeed find people from humanities, talk to people from humanities. And if you are coming from the field of humanities, then know that your time has come, because we as linguists, as our specialists in certain cultures and languages, are needed for this. Mathematics, coding, this is all already can be, well, say, replicated by AI, which is great in a way. But then talking about ambiguous situations, context, human nature, communication, this is something completely different. We can't just follow universal grammar, Chomsky, because when we talk with you, we never fall into the pattern, because human speech, like flow of speech, can be quite random, and even our thoughts. And therefore, I believe if we unite our forces, put in tech and humanities together, we can indeed achieve something very beautiful. But I would love to hear your thoughts. Yeah, that's it from me, Atanas.